Welcome back to the Mental Wealth Tree. I'm Dr. T, or more affectionately known as just T. And here at the Mental Wealth Tree, we ask provocative questions. We sprinkle in some seeds of poetry and serve up simple strategy to help you grow joy and peace in your heart and soul. They say money don't grow on trees, but mental wealth does. I'm so glad that you decided to take a little bit of time and chit chat with me for a little bit. Today we are talking about the topic of hush money. Now, we have some pretty important people in charge of our country, might I say, who have popularized this terminology, hush money, because they attempted to pay someone to suppress their truth with a little bit, or maybe even a lot of bit, of hush money. And we're all like, oh my gosh, that's so awful. How could somebody do something like that? But I have a question for you. Have you taken hush money to suppress your truth about you? That is what we want to further explore today. So this is going to be an ongoing conversation in which I explain in more detail, number one, what it is, and number two, how it robs you of your mental clarity and stops you from living in the 360-degree prosperity that you are promised. But as always, I am going to start off by sowing a little bit of poetry seeds. And this poem is original, entitled You. Flat-footed, unapologetic, yeah, that's right, I said it. No proof, no pudding, just receipts and recordings. All guts and glory. You ain't gotta worry, my secret's already out. So what you whispering about? I'm imperfect, uncertain, vindictive when hurting, compulsive, conniving, prone to stressing and striving. I can be jealous and petty. My space is always messy. Forget bass backwards, a walking cluster. Excuse my expression. Then, I'm so sorry afterwards. An odd, ugly duckling. Ain't got no bird song, just a whole lot of clucking. Super talkative, yet shy. My humor is a little too dry. My style is eccentric. My circles ain't concentric. I'm too everywhere. Have you seen my hair? Now, all this may be true, but whatever I have come through, after all that I've come through, it's one thing that I done come to. It's a must do. Learn to trust who I be and be me. Not the me I think you want to see, nor the me I'm led to believe you need. But be the goofy, off-key, full of intellectual curiosity, unconventional philosophy, righteousness thirsty, unhurried, unworried. Me. I put some respect on my own name. And I suggest you do the same. So there's always this tension that we have as human beings. This wrestling that we have about being us, or being hushed by something that is more enticing, more attractive, more readily available than just being authentic. But when we fall into the trap of taking hush money, suppressing our truth, not showing up as who we were truly created and designed to be, we end up always uncertain, always showing up feeling like we have to hide behind curtains. And this causes depression and anxiety because we're always thinking in our mind what we need to do in order to prove and to defend and to please and to mend. And then we are surprised and we can't comprehend how we find ourselves in the rut that we've fallen in. So, in sports today, we have this hoopla about NIL, and there's all this craze about NIL. I think I heard recently that here in South Carolina, they are working on passing a law, which I think exists in other states already, where high school students can be paid NIL payments. I'm thinking after a while, we're going to have school buses wrapped in marketing with little 8 and 9-year-old faces on it. Or maybe, images of the next 5th grade phenom, because this NIL thing is just exploding. But did you know that based on Genesis 1 and 27, God was the originator of the NIL deal? God said, I'm going to put my name, my image, and my likeness into my human creation, the souls who are occupying bodily forms. And guess what? It's not going to cost you anything to bear my name, image, and likeness. The only thing that is required is that you reflect back the glory and divinity that was placed within your humanity. But you know what we do? We say, no, I don't like that deal too well. I don't like this name, image, and likeness that I've been called, created, predestined, and designed to bear. So I'm going to strike up a new NIL deal. I'm going to trade my original, my true, my authentic, my most prized and precious name, image, and likeness for something else. I'm going to take on a name, image, and likeness that I was never intended to bear. And I am doing it in exchange for hush money. Now, what is this hush money, you ask? Maybe it is prestige. Maybe it is power. Maybe it is position. Maybe it is possessions. Maybe it could simply just be to preserve a personal connection. But whatever it is, hush money causes us to erase the evidence of our Creator's name, image, and likeness for a counterfeit version of who we are created to be. And in this process, we start answering to names we were never intended to be called. We look at our image, and now we are magnifying all of our flaws and finding fault. And if not that, then we're inflating our importance and downplaying our divinity in order to be noticed, or maybe just to be needed. We mimic the likeness of limited, lying, lazy, laughable people rather than the image that we were intended to own. This is what happens when we rush to hush money. We heap on the hush money and we forget the name, image, and likeness that we were intended to bear. But may I remind you that Isaiah 43:1 says, I know you and I called you by name. So if you find yourself answering to a name that you were not called by your Heavenly Father, then you just may be someone who has accepted hush money in exchange for your true and destined name. If you are looking at your reflection and you are not seeing God's divine perfection reflected back to you, maybe, just maybe, you have accepted hush money to dim the light, to erase the image of God, and take on a disguise, a mask that was not intended for you. But be encouraged, because we are encouraged to look into the light of God's truth and be shaped and molded back into His reflection, little by little, from glory to glory. If you find yourself engaging in behavior that is inconsistent with the character that you aspire to exhibit, if it's inconsistent with the values that you hold true in your heart, maybe you have taken on a likeness that is not your own. Maybe you have accepted hush money. But Ephesians 5:1 encourages us, therefore be imitators of God as His dearly beloved children. So if we're imitating and perpetrating a fraud, all so that we can be embraced by people, so that we can be celebrated by society, so that we can be elevated by everyone, we may find ourselves in a place of emotional bankruptcy. And the more hush money we accumulate, the more we try to grasp and fill our emotional banks with hush money, we get further and further away from the truth of who God created us to be. And in our ongoing conversation about hush money, I want you to ask yourself, is there any evidence in my life that I have taken hush money to turn down the volume of who God intended me to be in order to fit in order to be accepted, in order to follow the trend? And if so, what are you going to do about it? Think on that, and we will be back really soon with another episode of the Mental Wealth Tree. Like this video, subscribe to the channel so that you can follow us on this journey as we look more into the topic of hush money. See you next time.